So today I'm going to make some banana fritters, Jaxz style. It's actually, I'm going to be making some banana and apple fritters, not just straightforward banana fritters. And when I make my fritters, it's almost like making a cake. As you'll see, I've got a bit of ground almonds, nutmeg, a bit of salt, always have to have a pinch of salt, some plain flour, some mixed spice, cinnamon, vanilla extract, brown sugar or demerara sugar. That's what I prefer to use. This is demerara sugar that I'm going to be using. And I always throw in some sultanas that's been soaked overnight. Well, it doesn't have to be overnight, could just be for an hour or so. This has been soaking in a little bit of ginger wine. And gonna use some sparkling water. If the bananas are soft enough, might not need too much water, but sparkling water with a bit of just straightforward still water. We use the sparkling water because it just gives it a nice crispy edge. For the fruits, we've got our overripe banana, about this ripeness. A little bit under could work as well, and a couple of apples. These apples are starting to wither, so they're just fine for this. We don't want bananas like this, because bananas like this is too soft and can be kind of bitter as well. So this is too ripe and it's going off as well. So this basically is going in the bin. This is what we want. That is fine. And I'm also going to add a little bit of ginger, grate some ginger into it as well. As I said, this could be a cake, it could be an apple, it could be a banana cake, but it's not. It's Jaxz style apple and banana fritters with a touch of sultanas. So let's get on with it. As you know, I do this by myself, handheld camera or tripod camera, so the angles ain't always going to be brilliant, but we do the best we can. First thing we're going to do is the banana. We're going to mash down the banana. A couple of ways you can do this: with a fork, and you just press it down. You know, it is a bit of a long thing, but it works. Okay, so if you ain't got no fancy gadget, good old fork will do. The other way is if you got a potato masher like this, that will definitely get it done quickly. All right, but my favorite way to do this, but you can see that will mash it right down if you kept going. All right, my favorite way to do this is a blender. I got a little blender here. Any type of blender can do this. So, because you know, it'll just do it in seconds. And if we switch on the electric, that will help. And let's go for it. Obviously, I can't show you, but there we are. A few seconds is done. So any type of blender you have, you can use a blender. Don't worry about having little bits of lumps left, because that would all dissolve away once you start mixing stuff anyway. But that is the quick and easiest way. If you've got a blender, use a blender. Otherwise, fork or potato masher. There's our banana all mashed down and ready. And we're going to add some vanilla extracts to this. This is our wet ingredients. So to this, I'm going to add only about half a teaspoon. Don't want to add too much. So half a teaspoon of vanilla extract to our banana mixture. Just going to give that a little stir. And then we're going to get on with the dry ingredients. Get all the dry ingredients nice and ready. Okay, for the dry ingredients, it's obviously the flour. Now, this is a cup of plain flour. I'm going to use I'm using a mug, because I know a lot of the times recipes will say a cup, but most of us use mugs in the houses. So you can see that a cup of flour is basically 3/4 of a mug. All right, so if you haven't got a cup, 3/4 of a mug is what you need, is what we're going to use to start with, because we might use a little bit more as we go along, because I'm not using measurements, because actually I just do everything from off the top of my head. But because I'm doing this as a recipe for you guys, then that's why I'm trying to use some kind of measurement. This is a cup. I mean, you can buy these thingies in the shops, you know, which tell you 1 cup, whole cup, half a cup, 3/4 of a cup, etc, etc. But if you ain't got that, then 3/4 of a mug will do. We're gonna add a little bit of nutmeg to that, and a case, it's just grating. 1, 2, 3. Let's count for about 10 seconds of nutmeg. Don't use too much nutmeg, because nutmeg can make things bitter. So there we are with the nutmeg. We're going to use a dessert spoon of ground almonds. Ground almonds, obviously, a level spoon. I just love ground almonds, that's why I'm using it. That's optional. You don't have to have that in there. We're using a level teaspoon of salt. We're going to do the same with some mixed spice, optional. You don't have to use mixed spice. I just love the way it gives the taste. So level teaspoon of mixed spice, a level teaspoon of cinnamon, there. One that I didn't put on the ingredients list, but if you want to get a lighter taste, because using just flour and all that can be a bit heavy, bicarbonate soda. And again, I would only use about half a teaspoon of that. And then obviously our sugar. I'm only going to use 1 tablespoon of sugar, because obviously our apple and the banana is sweet. So tablespoon of sugar in there. Give it a good mix. And that's your dry ingredients ready. We're waiting for the wet ingredients. We're going to add the ginger. It's about thumb size ginger. About a thumb size of ginger. Again, optional. You don't need to add ginger to basic banana fritters. And what we're going to do, we'll get some juice off of this as well as grated ginger. So I'm going to grate that down. We're going to put that ginger into the wet ingredients. Good thing with this little contraption here, this little grater, is you don't catch your fingers so easy. And there you are. So you got that nice little bit of ginger there. That's what you're left with. There we are. About that bit, unless you want to chop that bit, but it's optional. And we're going to add the grated ginger, I should say, not chopped, grated ginger, to the wet ingredients. And if we add it into the flour, then you're going to get coated ginger around the flour. So we add that into our banana mix there. And then our next move is to merge wet and dry. Remember, we've got our sultanas, our bit of sultanas, which still has a little bit of the ginger wine. Most of the ginger wine is soaked up. All I did was I put enough ginger wine in which to cover the sultanas. Just makes them a little bit more juicy and not so dry when you soak them. You can just use water. I use ginger wine or rum, brandy, whatever I've got, white wine, red wine, whatever I've got. But if I haven't got any of those, then I tend to just use water. So now we're going to add these sultanas into, and again, sultanas is optional. You don't have to have them. I just like them in my fritters. We've added those. And then what we're going to do is add a little kind of, well, you can see here, just a little well there. And we're going to get our banana mixture straight in. Right, so we're going to give that now a good mix. Look, as you can see, that's like a cake mixture. I've never tried baking this. It probably would come up as a nice little cake. It's too thick for fritters. So, yeah, we're going to add 150 ml of water here. And 50 ml of that is sparkling water. And the rest is just normal still water. And I'm just going to pour in a little bit at a time because I don't want to overdo it. You do the same, a little bit at a time, because if you put too much in, then you'll have to add more flour. So, and we don't want to do that. A little bit more. But right now, the consistency that we got right now, I think is good enough. So right now, this is what we've got. Okay. And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking maybe that might need a little bit more flour, but I'm going to fry one, check it out first, and then if it needs a bit more flour, we'll add a bit more flour. 50 milliliters of water that we've just used there, and it's come to that. And I'm thinking I might have to put maybe quarter cup or something like that of flour in there to thicken it a little bit more, but we'll see. We'll do a fry first and see how we get on. So I've peeled one of my apples and sliced them, not too thick, not too thin, and cored them using an apple corer. But obviously if you haven't got one of these, don't worry yourself, man. Just use a knife. Once you've sliced them down, use the knife to just basically go around it like that. Go around it. And I mean, even with using the apple corer, I've still got to push my finger through it and make sure that it's picked up all of the hard core, because sometimes you get bits of the hard core still there, and you just use your knife and just basically look, nothing special, just make sure you don't cut yourself. Okay, you just use your knife and just go round and round and round. Remember, nobody ain't gonna see this. This is gonna be inside the fritter, so you know. As well as you can chunk your apple and mix it in with the mixture. You could do it that way as well. Don't do too many apples at one time. Just do a couple until you fry, and then do more as you go along, because you know apples get brown, and they say to squeeze a little lemon juice on it, which I'll do, and that should keep it from going brown until I'm ready to use it. Just smear it round so that, yeah. Right, so we're ready to fry our banana, apple and sultana fritters. So I've got about 100 milliliters of oil, just any type of frying oil, not olive oil. I mean, you can try olive oil, but you know, it doesn't get to that heating point as well as it should. But to make sure that that oil is hot enough, let's just take a little bit of the batter and drop it in and see if it starts frying. Yeah, that starts frying enough. Right, now it's time to fry. So I'm going to take one of my apple pieces like that. I usually just drop it into our mixture. Remember, we're going to do one to just check things, and just cover it as much as we can. I did start off with 7, then turn it right down to 4. Okay, because we've got sugary stuff. We've got sugar and banana sugars in there, so things can burn quite quickly. So let's bring the frying pan closer to us, and as you see, I've covered over the apple. Now we want to pick that up. The apple, it's got some of the sultanas in there, and we just easily drop it into our hot oil. Put that back on the fire. Now remember, like I said, it is sugary products, so I'm going to give that about a minute, or maybe even less than that, and then I'm going to flip it, because you will need to turn it quite frequently. And I would say it takes about 10 minutes to fully cook it. It's flour, you know, and flour can take a bit of time to cook. You don't want it doughy when you bite into it. That's why we added the bicarbonate soda to lighten it up a bit. So hopefully that would have done that. There we are, that's a minute. So we're going to flip that. There we are, we've got a good colour on it. Again, give that another minute. And as I say, it can take anything up to 10 minutes to do, but this is our tester. Be patient, do a tester. Make sure it's not too light, too heavy, and so on. If it's too heavy, then it means you need to add a little bit more water to your mixture. If it's light and nice, if it's too light, then add a little bit more flour. This is down to how you like your fritters to be as well, by the way. Flip again. I'm just going to give it a little press. Obviously we've got apples and sultanas, so it's not going to be that flat, flimsy looking type fritters. And as you can see, it's doing nicely. And this is our tester that we're doing. We are going to take this out and put it into the air fryer. To save time, this has been cooking for about 10 minutes, and I've just split it. I don't know if you can see. There you are. That's how soft it is. For me, I would like to add about quarter cup of flour to the mixture. Just gonna add about that much flour. It's just under a quarter cup to our mixture. I'm doing everything one-handed here. I did think it was a little bit thin, because that's why it looks so runny. It's cooked, the fritters is cooked, but just a little bit too runny for me. So there we are, we've got it now at that. So a little bit thicker, should give it a little bit more body when we fry it. Okay, so our oil is hot enough. I've done the test. We've added a little bit more flour to make it just a little bit thicker. Also should point out that when the fritters cool down, it will firm up as well, so you've got that to look forward to as well and to remember. So we're going to put in about 4 or so in our next batch. Get it in before the oil cools down too much. Another way you can add this batter in with the apple is we can start off by putting some butter in, like that. Just put the butter in on its own like that. And then we can take an apple, put it on the top. That's a bit small. I'm going to put a little bit more apple on that one. And then you can see that. And then we just add some more of the batter on top. Like that. Spread it out. If you find the first method a bit fiddly, you can try this method. And I can see that these are browning on the bottom. Because it's sugar, banana, sugar, and the sugar itself, it'll need flipping, see? It's been about a minute anyway. Not the one that I've just put in, but these are the ones I put in to start with. And we're doing a minute, flip, minute, flip. If you a bit health conscious and don't want it sitting in all that oil and soaking up all that oil, you can do 2-3 minutes in the frying pan and then put it in the air fryer for 5 minutes on about 170 and let it cook in there, finish off in there. Or you can put it in the oven on, 180 for about 10 minutes and let it cook in there, so you won't have all that soaking up of oil. But I prefer to put mine in the air fryer, so I'll be taking mine out and putting them on a rack ready to go into the air fryer. We can flip this one. There we are. Right, so I've taken them out of the frying pan and I'm going to put them in my air fryer all ready to go. and we've got it on 160 for 6 minutes. Here we have our second lot going. Hardly any oil in the pan after I did put 100 milliliters in there, but this time I'm working on a really low heat, and that is starting with the heat right about 7. We're talking about electric. Then I turned it down to 4. I turned it down to 4 before adding the batter, then add the batter, and then I turned it down to 3. And I've been turning every minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, turning. I've been doing it for now about 5 minutes. Just turned it again, and I am going to put them into the air fryer. All done. Here's our tasty batch of banana and apple fritters with a bit of sultanas, or it's Jaxz style banana fritters with apple inside. Let's have a look inside and see what it looks like. Here we are, our banana and apple fritters. It's crisp on the outside here. Nice crispy on the outside, on the edges there, and then inside should be nice and moist and firm and apple. There we are. That is what we're looking for. That's exactly what we want. It's like a pudding type inside with your apple on top. Apple is cooked, the flour, the batter part is cooked, and it's crispy on the outside. That's what the sparkling water does to it, and I'm quite sure they're going to be tasty. Yep, we got the crunch, the banana. You can just about taste the ginger, just right, and that smooth apple. It's not puree, it's firm, but it's soft. It's delicious. Would be nice with some ice cream, clotted cream, fresh cream, anything you really want to put it with, or just on its own. Try this one, guys. Thoroughly recommend it. Delicious. Enjoy.